you are too polite, this is why you're getting disrespected. Now, this is what I've done to fix this. See, growing up, I had quite a decent foundation, right? Good parents wanted me to be a very well-behaved child, and there are some benefits and positives to that. I was kind. I was, in some ways, very patient, but I was also too polite. And that politeness led me into spaces I didn't want to be in relationships. When I was being disrespected, I'm polite. That's what would show up. So despite me being disrespected, I'll just say, hey, it's okay. We can figure it out. Let's talk about it, right? I'll brush off the disrespect. Or, because I learned how to, it's almost like I had this misconception in my mind that in order for me to build healthy connection with people, well, all I had to do was focus on the positives, right? Ignore the negatives. And if they disrespect me, just be prepared to just get over it and just move on to the next thing. And just don't let the disrespect stop the good friendship from moving on. And that cost me way more than I thought I could handle. It cost me my dignity. I was saying yes when I meant no. And it was so bad that after 5 heartbreaks, I realized that maybe being too polite isn't as important as I thought. At work, couldn't get a promotion. I was doing the work, so they had no reasons to promote me. Why? Because if I'm doing the work, I might try to push here and there, but I'm not really a pushy guy. I'm polite, right? A lot of us polite people think that life is not fair because, we equate politeness to power in some freakish way. It's very weird, right? The more polite you are, the more power you deserve. The less polite you are, the more punishment you deserve, right? You're justified. You deserve justice if you're polite. That's the story we tell ourselves. Now, this is how it trickles in your relationship, or trickled in my relationship too. I was being walked all over, and I thought, well, I just need to pour more politeness into this. Let me reward the disrespect I'm receiving with some gifts, or with some more texting, or with some more conversations where I'm trying to help them see where I'm coming from, so that we can both be polite to each other. Because in your head, once the politeness overspills, then it's clear you're going to get something out of it, right? It doesn't make sense for you to be this gentle and kind towards people and for them not to return it, because everyone must have some sort of desire to want to return politeness. Kindness is contagious. This is the thing we've been told. Now, this is the brutal truth, right? No BS. If your kindness can't be protected, then it's not kindness, it's survival, and it's going to cost you your dignity. I know this because it cost mine. And once my dignity is gone, my identity felt miserable, useless. And because it felt useless, I felt useless. So I need you to understand that what you're doing by being overly polite and not standing up for yourself is you're creating an environment where you're teaching people that in order for them to get what they want, you don't necessarily need to exist. As long as you're useful, you can be kept around. But once you're no longer useful, you should be disregarded. So your politeness has become a curse. And I need you to understand that once I understood that you should not be intimidated to be seen as evil, everything flipped. See, I always look at the greats and think to myself, these guys had a good life and all these great things. But the truth of the matter is this. Have you heard the word be the bigger man? One of the biggest scams I've ever heard. Because here you are saying to yourself that because you're being the bigger man, it's okay for you to be stepped over. You're not the bigger man, you're the bigger doormat. So instead of saying I'm going to be the bigger man, say I'm going to be the bigger doormat. Because the comparison is, it's either you're the bigger man that just accepts and move on because they're polite and mature, or you're the childish person that reacts to everything that they're uncomfortable with. And I think both models need to be disregarded. Because how about you confront what needs to be handled properly in a way that never comes back to you again? What do you define that as? Sit down like a gentleman, right? Don't deal with things like don't be the bigger man. Be shut it down like a gentleman. It's actually, I'm gonna tell that. So the reason why this isn't not working is because you are indirectly saying to the person you're speaking to that you need them to interact with you in order for you to feel comfortable. And when you tell people you need them, you're indirectly creating a hierarchy where you're placing them above you. And because you're placing them above you and they feel that, they use that to their advantage. Indirectly. This is biological. Why? Because this is why when people say familiarity breeds disrespect. There's some truth to that, yes. But the only reason why it breeds disrespect is because you allow disrespect in your camp to exist in the first place. I can be very comfortable with my wife and I know she's not going to disrespect me because she knows that I don't play with disrespect. That's a no-go zone. That's very dangerous. Disrespect means that this relationship could end in a heartbeat. I don't play with that. So your familiarity needs to be authentic, but also needs to have clear boundaries in order for it to be able to stay through the long term. People want to test you, right? And you look at them and you say, did you really just say that even though I told you not to? What do you think is going to come out of this? Are you able to respect the boundaries here, or do we need to call it a day? And then the next time they do it, you look at them and say, I have no choice. You left me no choice here. I'm done. I'm not saying this because I don't like you. I'm saying this because the boundaries are the boundaries, man. If your boundaries move, your position drops. And this is why your boundaries need clarity that isn't based on what other people do or see. That's not boundaries. That's just you indirectly trying to control people into doing something that they didn't really want to do. Boundaries are your ability to now say, if this happens, this is my consequence. That's boundaries. And the problem with being too polite is you're telling people that your boundaries are weak. And because your boundaries are weak, so is your identity to them. People need to know that you're disagreeable, contrary to popular belief. The one thing I'm going to tell my children is that don't be scared to say no. Don't be scared to tell them that you disagree. We grew up in a generation where everyone wants to be accepted. Everyone needs to be okay with winning. No one has to lose. Everyone has to be happy. Everyone has to be joyful. And that's just not how the world works. That's not how I build self-esteem. That's how I get people to be miserable, because no one's ever going to get on board with that. For how long have we tried to get that to be a reality? Right? And I'm not saying it's not a nice concept. I'm just saying it's unrealistic, considering you're asking people that have no interest in wanting that to do that. And what makes you any different from them if they're not asking you to do something you don't want to do? So the concept of everyone getting on the same board doing the exact same thing, it's kind of futile. How about you say, meet them where they're at, and if they align, great. If they don't, disregard them. Not everyone's supposed to be your friend. Not everyone's supposed to like you. And that's okay. You telling them otherwise is you preparing them for a world that doesn't exist. So, the truth of the matter is that some of us use, like I said, politeness as power. We think that as long as we're polite, we won't deal with conflict. And I'm here to tell you That conflict is going to come regardless. And you not knowing how to deal with it is why it will come back. I think that if people knew how to meet people where they're at, this is a threat. This is how you respond accordingly. You don't have to be polite to everything. If someone's threatening you, challenge them and say, don't do that. What you're doing is very disrespectful. And then we can talk about guys being able to fight and all these other things, right? You having an edge to yourself and you having the ability to protect your identity is what makes you someone worth remembering. You are invisible otherwise. One of the biggest issues with my invisibility is that I was so focused on being polite to every person I spoke to because I didn't want to offend them. And the moment my life changed is when, for instance, it was time for me to get a pay rise. I didn't care about the company anymore. Yeah, they helped me pay my bills. So what? I'll find someone else. And I did. And I got headhunted. Right? Sometimes your politeness is expensive to keep. It's appropriate in some scenarios, but not in every scenario. No, it's not. Sometimes you need to be authentic. Genuinely authentic. If your politeness drains your authenticity, then it's not supposed to be there. It's an expensive upkeep. Your politeness should be a choice, an authentic choice. I chose to be kind to these people. I chose to be polite to these people. And it's not reactive. It's based on your identity. But the moment the person you're trying to be polite to or you're being polite to is disrespecting you, your boundaries should be able to play the part that allows them to know that the line they're crossing is a line with a one-way ticket, which is complete. If someone, it's not even about matching people's energies, by the way. It's about this misaligns. I cannot be polite to someone like yourself. It doesn't work for me. I want to be polite to people that are polite to me. And if that isn't you, that's completely fine. I don't have a problem with that. I just can't work with that either. It's not going to be something that I can tolerate. So it's either we're polite to each other or we call this off. And that's fine with me. You don't even have to be unpolite to them or disrespectful to them. No, you just need to be someone that knows how to meet people where they're at. So when I speak to people, a lot of times you being disagreeable is probably it almost comes like, oh my gosh, how do I get that out? How do I become this disagreeable person when my whole life I've been this polite person that just takes everything that's been given without retaliating? That's why you need recalibration. Okay, and that's the work I do. Sometimes within 6 weeks, sometimes within, depending on the program you pick. If you're interested, drop me a message and we can discuss what programs suits you best. But the problem here is you need to stop treating politeness like a permission. You need to stop treating politeness like something that keeps you safe. It doesn't. What keeps you safe is your identity and authenticity being protected. That's what keeps you safe. Because your authenticity is you now saying, I am okay with people not being okay with who I am. And that's okay, right? Your politeness is supposed to be an extension of your authenticity. It's not supposed to represent or replace it. So I am authentic. Stop saying you're polite. I'm authentic. If I believe that whatever has been said here is nonsense, it is nonsense. Is there ways to do it? And is there a way to say in a better way? Can you use body language, tonality? Absolutely. And that's the work we do. But the point here is you need to be able to say, call things as they are. I don't agree with this. Challenge your nervous system to start disagreeing. Say no 10 times a day. If I haven't said no today 10 times, then something's off. And then over time, you start to realize that because you said no at the start, you're not going to need to say as much anymore. But the truth of the matter is that every human being has to at some point say no. I have to say no to my daughter sometimes. I have to say no to my wife sometimes. Does that make me a bad person? No. Maybe in the moment to them it does. But if I had said yes the whole time, then that means I'm saying no to me. So there needs to be a balance, right? The balance is, as long as I'm authentic, this works. The moment my authenticity, my core values have been jeopardized, then that no is expensive. That no to myself, by the way, is expensive. And the more I try to upkeep it, the more bankrupt my identity will become. So state a direction, understand clearly where you sit, sit well with discomfort. Observe discomfort. Don't allow it to consume you. Because a lot of times, being polite is just a way to escape discomfort. Okay, you didn't mean that. I'm happy to sit with discomfort. I will take all the time you need, but we will talk about this. Now, if you need help in doing that, I understand that it's easier said than done. You're going to have to rewire your identity. It took me quite a bit to do that, but because I went through it, I'm sure that you can too. I don't see myself as special, but I see myself as someone that's willing to do the work. And that's the people I love working with. If that's you, drop me a message and let's get to work. Email me, whatever the case is. Right? So if you're tired of being respected because of your politeness and not your presence, then I really hope this video has at least given you some insights in regards to what to do differently. Now, in regards to working together, like I said, I do one-to-ones. DM me on Instagram or on TikTok, whichever you prefer, or on LinkedIn. And guys, I'll see you in the next one.